It's not time he's shit-faced. He's going over.
Good evening. Today is Monday, October 20th, 2025. I call to order a meeting of the Brockton Finance Committee. Would everyone please rise and join me in honoring our country by saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, agenda item number 1, please.
Item 1, we have the reappointment of James Plouffe to the position of Building Superintendent of the Public Property Department for the City of Brockton for a 3-year term ending November 2028. Invited James Plouffe.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Mr. Chairman, in view of the latest development with Mr. Plouffe, I move that we table this item so that there's no further discussion on it.
Second.
Just on the motion?
On the motion.
There is no debate.
Oh.
No, excuse me, it's a motion to table. There is no discussion. Apologies.
Motion is made, properly seconded, table this matter. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Matter's tabled. Number 2.
Item 2, we have the appointment of Juan Pablo Gonzalez of East Ashland Street, Brockton, Mass. to the role of auditor for the City of Brockton for a 3-year term. Inviting Juan Pablo Gonzalez.
Thank you, Dallas.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm so excited to sit here tonight with Juan. He has a lot of support here tonight from actually school folks and city folks. He is a Brockton product. Ashfield School, North Junior High, Brockton High School, lives in the city of Brockton. What really showcases his ability to succeed is collaboration, but his grit and determination. He has had a really great relationship with the Department of Revenue in the state. He's had an exceptional relationship with the school folks and the city folks. There was a question brought up, and I actually just traveled back to the States just a few hours ago, but it's my understanding there's a question brought up, why wasn't his position posted? The person in this role previously, immediately before Mr. Gonzalez, I deemed as an interim, and then I put forward, and she was confirmed. So it's a past practice. He is the most qualified. He has done an exceptional job, and I think if we do not promote him, we will lose him without question to another municipality. So I humbly ask for your support as we continue the wonderful progress that he has established within the department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Gonzalez, would you like to add anything?
I am the acting auditor. Like I said before, when I was appointed as assistant auditor, it's been a crazy ride. It's been a very crazy ascension to this role. You guys have my resume. I think my resume speaks for itself. I guess what I have to say is I had a mini presentation, but that's a 3-year plan that in my head I had built out if I were to be appointed to this position for a 3-year term. A couple things, obviously year 1 would be just to fix a lot of the stuff that's going on with the lack of internal policies and procedures. In the 2nd year, my role would be to modernize a lot of the systems that we have in place. A lot of the stuff that we're using is completely archaic. And in the 3rd year would be more to make sure that we stabilize our finances for the long term so we don't go through this crisis ever again.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Farwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Chairman, I am in favor of Juan's appointment, and I'm especially pleased that he has built a relationship with the school department and the people who handle finances in the school department. And as a matter of fact, there's a representative from the school department here, Attorney Kim Tsai. I spoke with her just very briefly a few minutes ago, and I said, how is he doing? And he has really done a remarkable job, and we need that partnership. I mean, yes, we are through what happened in fiscal year 2023, but we need someone who has established a relationship, who will continue that collaborative work because it will serve the city well. Now, to those who might say, well, he's awfully young to be put in this position, he has a built-in support system. He'll have a mayor, he'll have counselors, he'll have other department heads, long-serving department heads, John O'Donnell from the Board of Assessors, the Chief Financial Officer, Dr. Clarkson, Mr. Brophy, Marty Brophy, who is the Collector Treasurer. So he'll have a support system in addition to the Department of Revenue, Division of Local Services, if he were to need assistance, if he were to need help. So I think for all the right reasons, it's very nice to have a qualified person who lives in the city, who wants this challenge and who has already demonstrated a proficiency in how he handles the work at hand. So I'm really pleased, and I appreciate the work that you've done so far. I appreciate the work you do for the Accounts Committee on which I sit, and it's, as I say, it's just refreshing to have a Brockton resident qualified, wanting to undertake the responsibilities of this job and wanting to serve the residents of the city. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Griffin.
Good evening, Mr. Gonzalez. I also will be supporting your position, but I just want to compliment you, the work you've done so far, especially going over to the school side. That was always a problem. The schools were working kind of in a silo mentality. With the new leadership over there, under the new superintendent and a deputy superintendent, Sy, who's in the back of the room, I can see that really changed to a more collaborative model, which is desperately needed. And I think your addition to it is going to be very, very beneficial, not only to the schools, but the city as a whole. Because actually, there really isn't a city side or a school side. We're the city of Brockton. We're all together. We're going to either make it or break it together. And I'm really glad you're with us. I wish you continued success in your new position also.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilors, anyone else? Councilors, if I just quickly, Mr. Gonzalez, I really enjoyed our conversation a few days ago. During that conversation, I brought up your specific and special relationship that you have to this city council. You know, the ordinance states your reporting duties and your, your responsibilities to the city council. So I wonder if you could just talk about how you see your relationship with this council.
Thank you, Councilor. Relationship-wise, obviously, as we know, the city auditor has to report to city council when, as you require, or if anything goes wrong. I intend on doing that. If anything were to come up and anything were to go wrong, obviously we have the accounts committee here that I always report to. If anything comes up, vendor-related, budget, whatever the case may be, obviously we have that in place. I would always be reporting to city council.
Great, because that's a role that most other department heads, I don't think any other department head has a specific duty to the city council, as does the auditor. And so that's a relationship that we, that we look highly upon, and we're looking to develop a closer relationship as you grow in your position. So thank you. Councilors, seeing no other questions.
Need a motion?
Yes, so it's a motion.
Motion to recommend favorably?
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded to recommend this appointment favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The appointment's recommended favorable. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you.
We have the reappointment of Olawatoyan Adewami of Brockton, Mass. to the Brockton Commission on Women's Issues for a 3-year term ending in September 2028. Invited Olawatoyan Adewami. And I don't believe they're here. We did get an email that they would be attending tonight, that person would be attending tonight, but if possibly a motion to postpone till the end of the meeting?
Yeah, Councilors, if we'd entertain a motion to postpone to the end of the meeting to give Madam Adewami a chance to appear.
Motion to postpone to the end of the meeting.
Second.
Motion was made to postpone this matter until the end of this Finance Committee meeting. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Matter's postponed. Number 4.
Ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $326,707.89 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security to the Brockton Police Department. Invited Police Chief Brenda Perez and/or her designee, and CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson.
Good evening, gentlemen. Dr. Clarkson and Sergeant Skinner, thank you for joining us. Please, the floor is yours, gentlemen.
Good evening, all. So the Training and Incentive Grant for 326,707 provides 16 hours of training for all of our officers, our dispatches, and the fire department dispatches as well. It's mandatory training by the state. State then offers the grant to pay for the courses and to pay for those 16 hours.
Councilors, any questions?
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Motion is made, properly seconded, to recommend this order favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The order is recommended favorable. Thank you, Sergeant.
Splendid job.
Ordered that the city pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A and 53A and a half, hereby accepts the following donation of $3,000 from Eastern Bank to the Brockton Police Department. Invited Police Chief Brenda Perez and/or her designee, CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson.
Again, good evening, gentlemen. Floor is yours.
All right, this $3,000 grant has been donated by the Eastern Bank. It really supports our first responder community jamboree that we hold every year. Helps defray the cost of this event. We do things for the kids like trackless trains, snow cone machines, crafts, different things. The kids love it, and the Eastern Bank was very kind to donate this money to us.
Councilors, any questions?
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Motion is made, properly seconded, to recommend this order favorable. All in favor? Anyone opposed? The order is recommended favorable.
Thank
And,
you to Eastern Bank.
Yeah, on behalf of the City Council, we'd like to thank Eastern Bank for your generous donation. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Item 6, ordered that the City Council authorizes the acceptance and expenditure of the total grant funds in the amount of $859,400 from the Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs to Parks and Recreation Department. Invited Superintendent of Parks Timothy Carpenter, CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson.
Dr. Clarkson.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. In addition to the information in your packet, I did provide you your regular update over the weekend. And as I noted, this is a grant through the Commonwealth's MVP program, also known as Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness, and it's for the Parks Department to support a climate resiliency project at DW Field Park that really is to do some analysis and some flood mitigation and some other work at DW.
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
On the motion, Councilor Lally.
On the motion, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Clarkson.
Good evening, Council.
Dr. Clarkson. This is the grant that requires a match. That comes from the parks funding, right?
Yes, 10, I believe, it was in the packet, but I believe it's
Yes.
a 10% match, yes.
Yeah. Do we have, like, do you have on hand the total funds in that account? Like, what do we got? What's the balance of the account?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can get it. Tim and I actually discussed this and determined that there were sufficient funds before it was filed, but I'll give you the exact amount before you vote next Monday.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else? Seeing none, motion is made, properly seconded to recommend this order favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Order is recommended favorable. Thank you. Number 7.
Item 7, ordered in accordance with the general laws of Massachusetts, Chapter 44, recommending that the City Council approve the expenditure of $2,684.51 from the Council on Aging Purchase of Service to Department of Public Works Water. Invited DPW Commissioner Patrick Hill and CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson.
Dr. Clarkson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do get these from time to time. I think we had one last meeting. This is an unpaid bill for the Council on Aging being paid to the Water Department. As I noted in my email to you, normally there would be a question of why are we transferring money from one department to another, but because the Water Department is an enterprise, the individual other departments do pay their bills, and so this is to pay a water bill from last year.
Mr. Councilors, any questions?
Just,
Councilor
Chairman,
Farwell.
just for the record, the reason this was unpaid is the invoice didn't come in until August of 2025. That's why it did not get paid out of the prior year, so.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. Councilors, anyone else? Seeing none? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Motion is made and seconded to recommend this order favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Order is recommended favorable. Thank you, Dr. Clarkson.
Before we get to item 8, Mrs. Adewami is here. We'll move to item 3. Item 3.
So we've got to make a motion to take it out of
Motion
order, or?
No, that's all right. We can-
Okay. Councilors, Ms. Adewami has appeared, and instead of making her wait till the end of our resolves, we'll hear from her now. Madam, please.
Item 3, we have the reappointment of Olatowayan Adewami of Brockton, Mass. to the Brockton Commission on Women's Issues for a 3-year term ending in September 2028. Invited Olatowayan Adewami.
Ms. Adewami, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you for coming before us and your desire to serve on our Women's Commission. Councilors, any questions for Ms. Adewami? Ms. Adewami, do you have anything to say about your appointment to the councilors?
Dear councilors of this hallowed chamber, I say good evening to all of you and those seated. I want to thank you for the opportunity to serve the last 3 years. It's been an eye-opener for me as a person to some of the issues around women and children in the city of Brockton. We've come to learn a lot about some of the basic things, homelessness and mental health. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a social entrepreneur as well. Matter of fact, just got back from Nigeria, my hometown, on a breast cancer awareness campaign across 4 states in southwest Nigeria. I'm a survivor. For this term, one of the things that I had worked with the chairwoman, the outgoing chairwoman, was to look at the state of women-owned businesses in Brockton and see how we can synergize that power to bring more economic opportunities to the community. It's going to be a long-term project to see how we can get more women to know what resources they have with the city and to also drive more young girls into entrepreneurship. So for me, coming back to serve an extra term is to help fulfill that agenda. That's why I'm coming back to serve again.
Great. Well, we appreciate that, and thank you for your service to our city.
Motion to recommend favorably back to the full city council.
Second.
Motion is made, properly seconded, to recommend this appointment favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? This appointment's recommended favorable. Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
So much. Appreciate it.
Item 8, resolved, be it resolved by the Brockton City Council to invite Troy Clarkson, Chief Financial Officer, Mayor Robert Sullivan, and Juan Gonzalez, Interim City Auditor, to appear before the Finance Committee to discuss and provide an update on the current status of the FY26 budget and the closeout of the FY25 budget. Invited CFO Dr. Troy Clarkson, Mayor Robert Sullivan, Interim City Auditor Juan Gonzalez.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I just want to thank Dr. Clarkson's team. He's got a phenomenal team, the CFO's office. I have to give a shout out to Elvira, Andrew. I know that Megan McKee is here, who's an unbelievable asset relative to database tracking. So the sheet that was given out was prepared when Dr. Clarkson and I were away. I've reviewed it. I think it really tells a strong story that, FY25 has been closed out. There is, within the circles of campaigns currently, there's bold-faced lies saying that we're in a deficit. We are not in a deficit in any shape or manner whatsoever. So I just want to get that on the record because it has been stated by certain individuals that the city's in a massive deficit. That's erroneous. But in terms of tracking the 26 spending, again, the next mayor, whoever he is going to have 6 months of this current budget, and that person is going to be in good shape because if you look at the strategic expenditure management, we are on track in the right way. But I think the biggest thing was that S&P, Standards & Poor's, revised our bond rating. And as you know, S&P and Moody's, they don't do that willy-nilly. There's another city really close to us that's just been downgraded quite a bit. So the fact is the ship has been righted by many, many, many people working together in collaboration. So I want to give a shout out to Dr. Clarkson and Mr. Gonzalez as well, because without their collective efforts and many other people, we wouldn't have this wonderful data tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dr. Clarkson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will echo what the mayor said, but also say to you, this is something that we have asked for, and I'm willing to continue to do, to have regular opportunities to discuss the budget with you. It's wonderful that the auditor is here as well, and I'm happy to be able to say that for the first time. Or I guess we'll wait until Monday to say it, but and that Kim Tsai from the school department was here tonight as well to show the teamwork that exists now. And so we provide you now on a regular basis this updated budget report and the school budget report. And this budget report, as you've now seen it several times, is sophisticated enough that it goes department by department and highlights areas where by the day, if the percentage spent in any budget is higher than it should be as of that given day, it lights up in red so that you can immediately see what the spending trends are, not just overall, but department by department. And And so I had Andrew from our team send you earlier today. These updated reports are as of today. So as of today, we have 30.68% through the fiscal year. And as was noted, we are at 32% spent. Now, normally that would be a source of concern. But as you know, our debt payments are front-loaded at the beginning of the year, so it skews that overall number a little higher than it normally would be. That's why we provide you the detailed report, so you can go through and look in each department and where their spending is thus far this year. I will continue to provide that to you on a monthly basis and look forward, whether it's on a quarterly or semi-annual basis, to have this on it as an ongoing resolve so that we can talk about it, so that the public can see that we're talking about it and they can raise questions if they have them. Because I think we've created a pretty sophisticated and reliable tool to monitor that spending. And that's a big reason why under that FY25 close, we watched that spending very closely. So we were able to finish the year strong and have a pretty significant surplus. That becomes the foundation of our free cash for the next year, and we still use that free cash to balance the budget. So that's important as well. So I think all of these, the trends in the one-page update that our team provided you, but then the detailed reports show a pretty complete picture of a city that is very strong financially, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilors, if you don't mind, just quickly, this is, I filed this resolve, so I just wanted to answer a few questions. I'd happy to switch seats with you, Councilor Lally, if that's more appropriate.
Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
So, you know, the reason that I've been filing these quarterly resolves is to kind of go through the budget cycle, because as we know, there's a cycle to our budgeting, seasons, you know, throughout the year as this process moves forward. Just last budget cycle, we approved the budget. Now we're in our first quarter, and so just kind of want to talk about this current first quarter season of budgeting, where we are and what we can expect over the next month or two, so the councilors can be prepared to, you know, see what the outlook is and prepare to listen from you and your department as you come before us, so we can put everything in context. So when I'm assuming as of right now, we're in that closeout of fiscal 25. As we saw, we had a bill come before us, and I expect, you know, one or two will trickle in over the next month or two, as they normally do. But where are we on the closeout? What's our, how are we looking at fiscal year 25? How that process played out? You know, what are some of the lessons learned over this last cycle? And maybe you can tell us, you know, where we are in the closeout of 25. And also, I know reports are due to DOR regarding those closeouts. Maybe you could talk about us submitting our end-of-year closeout report. If it's not yet been submitted, when is it due, and what's our prognosis or the outlook of submitting that on time?
Sure. I'll give you sort of the 30,000-foot view, and then since Juan is here and he's involved in those issues daily, I'll ask him to come up and provide some additional information. But as we always talk about, we're always in 3 fiscal years, right? Because right now, we are closing out 25, we're through 1 quarter in 26, and very soon we will start planning for fiscal year 27. So, chief among our responsibilities now is closing out fiscal year 25. The couple of bullets that we mentioned, both the budgeted but unspent funds, and then the total revenues, if there are any in excess of projections, form the basis for our free cash calculation. But in addition to that free cash, there's probably the major document called the tax recap sheet. And that's something that Juan has been working hard on since before the fiscal year closed on June 30th. I can tell you that we are ahead of schedule where we were last year, and Juan has been working very closely with the Department of Revenue, and he provides me regular updates, frankly, on a daily basis about where our progress was, what the information requests are from them, and how that's going. And so once all of that gets done and the tax recap is filed, in a short number of weeks, we'll be coming to you for the annual tax classification hearing, and that, as you know, sets the ratio for the different classes of taxation. That's required to set the tax rate, but once that's done, the tax rate will be set for next year. And Juan, if you want to just provide a little detail on the work you've been doing with DOR on the tax recap and the year close.
So what had transpired last year was there was obviously, as you guys know, indiscriminate amount of turnover in the auditor's office where our financials were delayed last year. This year, the conversation I had with you, Councilor Thompson, on Friday, we are way ahead of schedule in our reporting, and I know that the Department of Revenue and the calls that we have been in has stated that they want the balance sheet done by November 30th, so our free cash can be, a tax rate can be set, and free cash can be certified in December. Right now, the only concern that I would have is that in December, when we get our free cash certification, we would probably have to go to council to cover, or use free cash to cover the deficit that was left over from the Brockton Redevelopment Authority mess that we are dealt. And I think that's in the tune of $1.6 million. That's the only concern I have right now. Everything else in fiscal 25 has been successfully closed. We did close in a surplus, and we'll see what our free cash is whenever it's certified.
So we'll have a longer conversation about BRA probably a little later on when we're discussing making that transfer. But could you state that number one more time?
I believe it is around 1.6 million.
Okay. And that's obviously that would be deducted from the current free cash projected. What are they on the undesignated? Yes. Okay. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. So the tax cap is due on November 30th, and you're stating that we have every intention of meeting that deadline.
The balance sheet is, the tax recap will be due just a little bit after, because we can't really set the tax rate until we have that deficit cleared up, or else it's going to throw the tax recap off to where we really can't set the tax rate, because we will be over the tax levy limit. So once we go to council, you guys hopefully accept that. Once that's done, it brings us down that threshold, then we can set the tax rate.
Understood. So that would have to happen before the November 30th deadline?
It would have to after.
After?
After, yes.
Okay. So as you stated, Mr. CFO, we're moving into the tax classification season. Can you tell us about what we do to prepare, like as what we're doing right now, essentially to prepare that? Is this the tax the tax cap process, or what else is involved in preparing for the tax classification?
So the Department of Revenue has their own software that municipalities use to prepare for the end of the year and the beginning of a new year. And it is multiple pages of data, information from Juan's office, from the schools, from Marty Brophy, our statement of debt, John O'Donnell and all of the work that he does in terms of valuation of properties. And so it's really a patchwork from many offices that everyone gets all their information entered. And in fact, when everything is all said and done, even the city clerk has a role in signing on that dotted line that all the information has been entered. So as I stated before, everyone is working very closely together. We meet as a team on a regular basis. Now that the school finance team is staffed up, we will return to having them at regular meetings. And so the level, as Councilor Farwell stated or a little earlier, the level of collaboration, I think, is at its best since I've been here, and that's almost 7 years now.
And that's great to hear. I mean, that's after our budget deficit, I think that was one of the biggest issues that we wanted to resolve as a city, to tear down the wall between the city and the schools. And, through my experiences, conversations both with school officials and your staff and everyone, that, that wall is essentially gone, and we're working much better together. And I think the public should know that. I don't want to get too far afield because we're going to have you in every quarter, and I know some other councilors may want to have a conversation, but there are two issues that I hope you could speak briefly to. Our healthcare costs, obviously those are rising. I believe it's a 14% increase. Could you talk about how that affects our budget? Does it affect our budget? I mean, obviously our employees pay premiums. I know that we also on our side provide some subsidization, if I'm correct, to their healthcare costs. How's that affecting our budget? And then additionally, our pension obligation. You mentioned it in the sheet that you provided to us about front loading some of those costs. Could you just talk about how that's all working into our budget outlook?
Sure. So this year's budget, this year, we increased our health insurance rates by 14.5%. As you know, we are self-funded for health insurance purposes, and that money is segregated and held separately from the city's funds. And we carry a substantial balance in the health insurance trust fund, so that in years where our expenses outstrip what we've set aside, we have money set aside. For last year, that happened. And I can tell you that I believe every self-funded health insurance program in the Commonwealth, and certainly the GIC, was in a similar situation. There was a confluence of events that we've talked about here, reduction in providers, which meant an elevation in costs, the explosion in costs of GLP-1 drugs like Mounjaro and those other weight loss and diabetes drugs really had costs far exceeding what we projected. That was the reason why we recommended to the mayor, and he approved increasing the rates by 14.5%. And that sounded drastic, but again, that was in line with what other self-funded programs and what the Commonwealth did for the GIC. So what we're seeing thus far this year in the first quarter is that was a sound decision, and that our costs are now below what we're taking in. So we're back to a point where we are adding to our balance in the trust fund, because that increase was sufficient to capture those costs. We have a consultant that analyzes those, takes the actual health payment data, the actual claims that we pay on a monthly basis, and analyzes those and does a calculation and gives us a spreadsheet that shows on a monthly basis how we're doing versus our projections. And so for the first couple of months anyway, we have data through August. We're running ahead of schedule, but the trust fund did have a sufficient balance to cover the amount that we were in a deficit for last year. But when I say deficit, let me make this clear. That was not a deficit in our operating budget. That the system, the self-funded program, is designed so that the trust fund could absorb those additional costs when they arise. So, but our health insurance budget pays the city's 75% portion, excuse me, of those costs. And so you saw that rise in the human resource portion of the general fund budget pretty significantly to cover those additional anticipated costs.
So does that mean that the city subsidizes 25% of the healthcare costs, or just?
No, the city pays 75%, the employees pay 25%.
Okay, I had that backwards. Okay, and then you, in our fiscal 26 budget, you're saying you were aware of these increasing costs and properly budgeted for that outcome.
Correct.
All right, and then as of right now, our call it a healthcare trust fund is operating, expectedly, and there'd probably be no need to transfer any funds over into that account where we're covered.
I don't anticipate that, but health insurance is a funny thing, right? I don't think don't know of anyone, anyway, that predicted what was going to happen last year was going to happen. We raised the rates modestly, but then there was just this perfect storm of events that caused costs to rise significantly, I think throughout the Northeast, but certainly here in Massachusetts. And so we tried to mitigate that through the rate increase.
When would we start seeing red flags? Like, uh-oh, we're running low, maybe the trust fund's not going to cover this. When would we see that closer to budget year, like budget time next year, or?
Certainly, I would say, but well before the time when we present the budget to you, because that's, later in the year. We have those reports from Cooking Company on a monthly basis. And so I'm happy to come back, say, after the first of the year, when we're halfway through the year, and provide a report on where we're at.
Is that line item in our monthly revenue expense document? No.
It's not, because the trust fund is separate.
Right.
We don't track that, but again, our consultant does, and so if happy to provide that report to you as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think it would be smart to do this after the year to see where we're at. And lastly, a pension obligation. If you could just kind of speak to that quickly.
Sure. So as we've discussed a few times at this meeting, you authorized $360 million in pension debt. We issued $300 million. Excuse me. And so we have been meeting with a group of professionals, including our underwriters and our bond counsel and others, to investigate whether or not it makes sense, given the current environment, to issue that remaining $60 million. We're working closely. I've been to the retirement board a couple of times. The mayor and I went recently, and our underwriters from Stiefel actually came out from Chicago and came with us. So we're discussing with the retirement board the potential for changing some of the assumptions. Just for instance, not to get too much in the weeds, but right now we assume a 6.5% return on the investments of that money that we provided. We believe a 7% return estimate is both in line with what other systems in Massachusetts and frankly across the nation do. So we're working with the retirement board on maybe adjusting some of those assumptions, which would actually have a positive impact on our annual budgeted amount that we have to spend out of the operating budget to the retirement board. In addition, we anticipate having a discussion in the very near future with the Secretary of Administration and Finance, looking at whether or not it makes sense to issue that $60 million that remains in approved but unissued debt. And we'll certainly keep you apprised on that. In fact, there would be a role for the council to play should we go forward.
And just quickly, what would be the purpose of borrowing the additional funds? Is that, I mean, so since our projected percentage, right, the 6%, I think 6.2 was our original projection, you're saying we're at 7. So it's not a bad investment, we're not losing any money, we're actually doing better than we initially thought. So is it increased pension costs, or why would we borrow the 60 if everything seems to be going fine with the monies we already borrowed?
It's a great question. So when we borrowed the original 300, it didn't get us to 100%. In fact, if you remember, we didn't want to be, because the last thing we would want to be would be to be overfunded. If we're 101 or 102%, that means we're paying interest on money we didn't need to borrow. So we're not yet fully funded. Okay. So the question is, if we borrow that additional money, would there be sufficient savings, right? And I know it sounds counterintuitive, but the whole purpose of the borrowing is to free up money in the budget and have budgetary savings, because our performance is better than the number at which we borrow. I'm sorry, I'm just getting over a cold. So we do, I think, believe that there is some advisability to that, but we're just waiting on a consensus from all of the folks that advise us before we move forward.
Okay, understood. All right, that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
And thank you for that information. Thank you, gentlemen.
Any other councilors? You got a motion? Oh, Councilor Farwell.
Just a quick question for Dr. Claxon. I notice in a number of categories on the school
Oh, thank you
side
so much.
that we are
Yeah.
up quite a bit over the 30% spending level, particularly in the area of utilities, electricity. Now, I know you're going to say that we shouldn't worry about it because obviously we have sufficient revenues perhaps in other line items, but my worry is that in the aggregate, if you are way overspending for electricity and in other areas, in the aggregate, that deficit could get up to a point where it's not so easy to offset. So any strategies to deal with that, or?
Yes, that's actually, Counselor, a very astute observation. As you know, for the last couple of years, we have been using some accumulated energy credits to defray some of the utility costs throughout the city. And in this year's budget, we, in some budgets, removed those energy costs in these budgets because of anticipated use of energy credits. So it's still early in the year, and the DPW business manager who was handling that has actually left. And I'm happy to announce that as of today, there's a new DPW business manager, Megan McKee. And so Megan will be working with Pat Hill and with my office and with Juan to distribute the energy credits sufficiently throughout the city so that we're covering our costs and we're not having any deficiencies in the budget. So it's really just a work in progress.
Okay, last question, you touched upon it very briefly. What is the $160,000, 1.6 million deficit for the BRA? What is the cause of that? What's the genesis of that obligation that we owe? And the reason I ask is that did a 108 loan, Section 108 loan guarantee to Brockton Beer, and they were supposed to pay it back, and now, of course, they're out of business. And I've forgotten the federal regs on whether we are liable to pay back the federal government for the balance of the loan that they don't pay off. And maybe you know more about that than I do.
Yeah, and again, I will answer this, and then, but Juan, please jump in and provide any additional thoughts. I know the term deficit can be politically charged, so let me walk you through how that all works on the, let's call it the general ledger that is the city of Brockton and how we interact with the Commonwealth. Because when we get grant funds or when we draw down grant funds, on our books, that shows if we haven't applied for a reimbursement for those grants, it's essentially a debit on the ledger until we have applied for and received the reimbursement, which is the credit. So in order for the books to be balanced, those two numbers should even out and balance out. What I believe is the source of the deficiency with the BRA is that there were some drawdowns for some of the programs that were used, but their documentation wasn't sufficient to then apply for the requisite credit, and so those deficiencies are still hanging out there. I can tell you that since the city took that operation over, my team, Juan, Megan, Elvira, have been working very closely with the planning department to understand the books, to clean up some of those deficiencies. My team has been in touch constantly with HUD, but I believe as of now, what exists is drawdowns that occurred, but not sufficient documentation to get those reimbursements to even that out. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I just one other thing. Relative to HUD, we have the Boston HUD, Ed Soares, and we also have Washington, D.C. HUD, but because of Trump's furlough right now of the federal government, in essence, the Washington, D.C. is closed, the HUD. But we do have a gentleman named Ed Soares that Juan works with on a regular basis to try to rectify that. There was a lot of missing paperwork from the BRA, and I'm glad we decided to bring it back in-house. I think it's going to first of all, it's going to be much more professional, and we're going to be able to work with HUD in a better manner than previously.
Well, gentlemen, let me be somewhat clear on this. If there are funds that were drawn down with insufficient documentation, as far as I'm concerned, that should be investigated. We should know who drew down what and what amount for what purpose, and why is the documentation missing. That to me is important. The other question that I would just ask you to research, what are we going to do with any 108 loan guarantees that are outstanding, whether it's Brockton Beer or someone else? Will that become a liability to the city? And that, if you could just research that at your leisure, I'd appreciate knowing that.
What I can say in regards to that is CLA, our external auditor, we have gotten them to basically look at what transpired with the BRA and why we have this deficit on all three funds, which is the CDBG, the Home Program, and the LED program. So they're going to look into it in terms of examining the general ledger and see what went wrong and why there was no, either documentation or why they budgeted things the wrong way. All of that is going to be investigated by CLA.
Just to follow up on that, Councilor, HUD suggested that we either do an internal, which is what Juan's doing with all internal departments right now, or external. And we suggested do external, and they were very proud that we decided to go that way. So we've hired CLA, external auditing firm that we use, the city, but they're not helping the city. They're investigating the BRA component.
And Mr. Mayor, I think that's laudable, because oftentimes what happens is that something is amiss, but no one's ever held accountable, and that's really, I think that diminishes the public trust in how we operate. So I thank you for going external. I think that's a good move.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? Any motion?
Motion to recommend favorably.
Second.
Motion's been properly made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Mr. Clerk?
Item number 9, resolved. Be it resolved by the Brockton City Council to invite Thomas Tebow, Executive Director, Thomas Plouffe Esquire, Assistant Executive Director and General Counsel, and Bruna Campbell, Compliance Officer of the Brockton Housing Authority, to appear before the Finance Committee to discuss and provide an update on the 2024 Brockton Housing Authority Annual Report and to further discuss long-term plans and initiatives of the Brockton Housing Authority. Invited Executive Director Thomas Tebow.
Mr. Tebow, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. If I could thank the chairman for inviting me to talk about the Housing Authority. It's one of my favorite things to do. I would like to apologize on Mr. Plouffe's behalf. He's on a family vacation that ends today. And Ms. Campbell, who I hope you get to meet, a wonderful addition to our authority, is taking care of a sick pet. So he sent me. I just want to thank this body overall for the support that you've given the Brockton Housing Authority in the last, well, over a period of time, but especially in the last number of years. Your support of the procurement home rule petition has made us able to move forward with the Campello project. Your letter of support to Governor Healy got her attention and brought her attention to Brockton. I want to thank Councillor Nicastro, who's not here, and Councillor O'Lally for our trip to Cambridge to come in and see the work that we're doing there. And I want to thank Commissioner Texera, who in his former role as a board member approved us to go on this road. Councillor Thompson had asked me to come and speak about our annual report, of which I'm proud. The theme of that annual report is vibrant and impactful. And there's two things that we would want to do. And I learned this from my mentor, Richard Sergi. We want to make an impact, right? Whether that's on a neighborhood, the city, of the life of a single person. We want to make an impact. And to do that, you have to have some vibrancy. And I'm blessed with a staff that has that vibrancy. And it's nice to see, if any of you know Vincent DeChristopher. He has been with us for 52 years. And this man shows up every day, eager to go, ready to tackle the thing. So it's not just age. We have young people like Bruna Campbell, and we have, I'll call our seniors, I guess that would be me also, ready to go. So we're proud of the work that we're doing. I think you should be proud of the Brockton Housing Authority. Now, I don't say this as an accolade to myself because I stand on the shoulders of the people before me. We have had some wonderful boards, a wonderful executive director, Richard Sergi, who was there for 22 years in that role. Prior to that, in the role of a board member. The Brockton Housing Authority has been recognized by HUD several times as an outstanding agency. We're right now what's known as a moving to work agency. And a moving to work agency, there's 3,500 housing authorities in the country. 100 are designated as, 139 as moving to work. And that gives you the flexibility to do what you think is best with your funds, with accountability, Councilor Fowle. You just asked about that. So, but you can take your money in one program, move it to another. You can also get waiver of regulations. You can talk to this body here. You can talk to local service providers, whatever the problems that we are dealing with here in Brockton, the Brockton Housing Authority can, despite some regulations that might prohibit it, propose that to HUD and move forward. And there's some very creative things that have been done throughout the country. There's about 1,100 different programs that have been done under this, and the Brockton Housing Authority is now participating in about 10 of them. We are a high-performing rental assistance program that's mostly known as Section 8, but there's many, many more programs than that. The Section 8 program is very important to this city because we hold landlords accountable. And then they also take that money and reinvest into their properties, making sure that the neighborhoods stay vibrant. So we continue with that. And one program, and I won't touch too much, you do have our annual report. I hope you all received it. We just started a pilot program with School on Wheels. As you know, they've worked with homeless families to do after-school tutoring and homework. They're now working out of Hillside Village, working with the Brockton Housing Authority. That's the first housing authority in the state that they're working with. So we're excited about that. It started, they did a recruitment on September 30th, and they'll go throughout the year. We'll work with the school department on that also. I'm most excited to speak about the future of the authority. For those of you who have worked with me, I've always tried to be as honest as I could. The current status of public housing is substantially underfunded, and it's going to be underfunded by more in years to come. The state of Massachusetts is the most generous state in the country, and they can't afford their public housing. The federal public housing program, that's most of the high-rises, Hill Street, Roosevelt Heights, Earl Street, they are substantially underfunding in capital. They can't take care of their buildings, and they've realized that. And if you see, if you had a chance to take a look at that report I gave you, we're 90 billion, $100 billion behind across the country in taking care of our buildings. And Brockton, our biggest need was the Campbell high-rise. In fact, back in 1996, our chairman, Timothy Cruz, was presented with a proposal to take off the top 5 floors of the Campbell high-rise because the building just cannot withstand its height, its weight. It was built terribly back in 1972. So when I became the executive director in 2013, I realized there was something I had to do about it. First thing we had to do was get some money, so we have done that and we have moved forward. This presents the city of Brockton, the Brockton Housing Authority, its residents with tremendous opportunities. First, we have a building that really needs to be torn down, and it will be torn down. There's 2 alternatives. We could rebuild, or we could issue 400 vouchers, tenant preservation vouchers, which would just be a catastrophe. You'd have 400 seniors, disabled people trying to find 1-bedrooms that don't exist. So we are rebuilding. The good news, in September, on September 9th, Mass Housing approved our loan, our tax credits for Phase 1. It's a 3-phase program now. It's very expensive, so the state could not afford it in 1 phase. So the first phase will be at the old Self-Help Building, 1362 Main Street. We expect to close in December and break ground in January. There will be 144 units, 143 1-bedrooms, 1 2-bedrooms with some substantial amenities. The second building will, and that'll be 7 stories high. The second building will be If you're looking at the Campbell High-Rise to the right towards the bat out front, we'll build a unit there of about 122 units in a 7-story building. We will then go around the back where the parking lot is and build the final building in Phase 3. This does something, though, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds here. It gives us the authority to take those public... Okay, let me back up a little bit. Once we finish these, they're tax credit properties. The Brockton Housing Authority owns the property. We will have ground leases for an investor who will come in and takes the tax credits, and that will go for 15 years. At the end of 15 years, we will buy back the property. They are no longer public housing. They're managed by the Brockton Housing Authority, but they're affordable housing with project-based Section 8 stuff attached to them. We can take those units that we took down, the 198 in the A building, and we can use them in other places. We are proposing that we use them to federalize our state developments. Our state developments are in very, very tough shape. Kennedy Drive, Rainbow Terrace, they were built in 58, 63, very small. Half of them are walk-up, so if you have any mobility issues at all, you can't get there. And so there is a program called Fair Cloth to Rad. The state is partnering with us on that. And what that does is federalize it, then it goes to rental assistance demonstration. You would tear them down, rebuild. I would recommend that it's a 2 or 3 or 4 story elevated building, so you no longer have walk-ups. You could have the same number of units there or more. They would be modern by today's standards. And you would create neighborhoods that people want to live in. If you don't have neighborhoods that people want to live in, you have neighborhoods that only the most desperate will come. And you have creating neighborhoods of despair. And that's what we want to avoid. The plan that I shared with you is an outline of a plan. There's a lot more behind that. But I see it as the future of affordable housing in the city of Brockton. It elevates the quality. It gives more opportunities for people in the city. It should give you a broader range of people who are coming in and living there. So I'm excited about that. In the end, we are moving from one platform, which is called the Section 9, that's public housing, to the Section 8 platform. We're bringing in lots of outside money. Santander is our investor for Phase 1. There will be a lot more operating money coming through, so in the first couple of years, it's about $5 million more a year of federal money coming into the city of Brockton. It relieves the state so that they can concentrate on their state investments in the city. So I think it's a win-win for all. It's a lot of work. I have no plans on retiring, but this will go beyond me. And we are laying down the foundation for that. So with that, I thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening, and we'll answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that presentation, Mr. Tebow. Councilor Minichiello.
Thank you, Tom, for being here. You always do a great job. Question, how is the waiting list with regard to people that would seek the assistance of the Housing Authority? How long is it?
So it's a multifaceted answer. If you're an elderly resident of Brockton looking for federal elderly housing, it's probably 2 or 3 years. If you're a non-resident, we're not going to get to you. For the state housing, we do almost exclusively emergency cases. Those are people who are being made homeless at no fault of their own. That takes a couple of years. We're seeing a lot of, as these multifamilies are being bought at these astronomical prices, right? The new landlords have to charge a lot more money. The old tenants can't afford that. They're being forced out. So we're seeing quite a bit of that. But the waiting list for a family, a woman comes in and has a child and, just can't make the $2,500 a month it costs for rent, $2,700, $2,800, $2,900, 10 years.
Wow. Not good news.
Yeah. Well, we're calling people now and finding, the good news is we're calling them and finding they're over income because their need was 10 years ago. They've somehow got to a better place. And we're seeing quite a bit of that. When I say quite a bit, 20% of the people who are calling us, we're finding are over income. And there's a gap there too, by the way. They're over income for our programs, but they still can't afford market rent.
In order to bring the list down to, let's say, 6 months, how many units would you need to add to the inventory that you currently have?
Well, again, if you could say, and you know this problem with most social issues, if you could say this is the city of Brockton today, and we're going to take care of Brockton residents, we would have to double the amount of housing that we have. But if you double the amount of housing you have and nobody else does anything else, you are now going to service the region. You're going to, so it's, and the state wants to see that, right? The state doesn't look at Brockton and say, well, we want Brockton. They want to take care of everybody in the state. So the Brockton Housing Authority has been very creative and has been very adamant. And in fact, we're going through it again right now, saying we have a residence preference. We need a residence preference. The need in the city of Brockton is extremely high. And to take someone from a surrounding town doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Texiera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Thibault, to come before us. The work that you do for Brockton Housing, it's just amazing. I was there as a commission for 6 years before I became city council. And there's no word to describe the work that you do for Brockton Housing and for our residents in the city. But I got a question with the Campbell high-rise. It's going to be three-phase, correct?
Correct.
And what we're going to do with you must have a plan, I know you do, with the tenants, because it'll be phase one.
So this is it's unique and it's very beneficial to our residents. There's going to be one move. We are going to build the 144 units at 1362 Main Street and take everybody from the A building and move them in. There'll be one move. The way we were going to do it when we were renovating them would be scatter them around the city, then bring them back. So it's one move to the new place. They go from their existing unit to the new unit.
That's great, because not only it's going to help the resident of the Brockton Housing and they just move it. So at the end, because you're doing the three-phase, so we'll end up with more apartments?
No, we end up with 2 more apartments. We tried to put some more units to it. If people know the area, 75 Plain Street is our inventory center. We were trying to use some of the land there. We could not. The floodplain, we're near the river. That's caused quite a few problems.
Oh, because of flood water, so that they play that story. And you said, you touched that it's going to be an investor. Santander is going to be one of the investors.
So, I'm sorry.
As an investor, are they going to apply for the tips, for the tax levy, or it's?
No, this is a tax credit program. I would not be honest with you if I told you I understood the intricacies on that side of it. They come in, they buy the tax credits, and they use them. So we are selling our tax credits at 94 cents on the dollar. So they make 6 cents per dollar. There's huge dollars amount there on their taxes. So Santander buys it, and it buys down their tax liability. They also get CRA credits on it.
Oh, okay, understood. Great work, and keep our housing, because I know you do a great work there yourself, Tom Pluff, and Bruna also. She's amazing. Once in a while I do talk to her because I get a lot of calls from.
Thank you, and you know, Councilor Texiera, I'm proud. I don't like to, when I first started, we had Mayor Carpenter, who was just coming into office. He was over at Caffrey Towers, and he was delivering meals, and both elevators broke. And I said to him when we started, I do not want to manage housing where elevators don't work, where people are trapped on a regular basis. And we've figured out a way to do that, and you were involved in that with using energy credits. I heard Dr. Clarkson speak about that earlier. But I think I'm a proud, anybody ask me where I'm from Brockton. I'm proud of Brockton. There's lots of things happening, and I want to be proud of the housing that we offer to people. And right now, I'd like to, there's some things that I'm not proud of that I'd like to get a little better.
But thank you for the work that you've been doing for Brockton Housing, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to echo what Councilor Teixeira said in terms of your workability and your staff and everybody else up there. We've had an awesome relationship from the association with your group. But the other day I was at the Bel Air Tower, and I got an earful from a few residents in terms of their safety. These buildings are no longer just for seniors only. And I guess there was some sort of a state law so that basically brought them out so that you couldn't just restrict them to seniors only, and there's people there with mental health, people with disability, or some of the other issues residing in these buildings. And it's causing the senior population in those buildings to feel a little on the unsafe side. I think we actually had a mentally ill resident attacking a senior within days of my being there. So that is somewhat concerning. And I don't know if there's anything we can do as far as from an authority standpoint to, limit some of the populations that we put with some very vulnerable individuals, very frail individuals, to make them feel a little at ease. But there's some real concern there with the residents, at least in that one unit. I haven't been able. I went to a couple other ones, but that one in particular was the one that was more concerning, at least from the residents that I spoke with, and there was quite a few of them that basically said the same story over and over, where they would have to kind of lock themselves in their little apartments ahead of certain times because of these safety concerns.
Yes. So,
and that was a little concerning, and I also found out that we no longer have a police presence in those presence in those buildings as we used to, and that's something concerning. So I'm hoping that we can come up with some sort of a solution, at least to ease the stresses that some of these residents are feeling residing in those complexes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Councilor. The situation that you describe in Bel Air Towers is 269 units. Right now, we have 2 problem residencies there that are really turning the place upside down. Prior to the passing of Richard Gosher, he was working closely on it and trying to move these families along. Councilor Falwell, I was reading our 1994 annual report a couple weeks ago, and your name was mentioned. You started the COPED program, Community Policing for Elderly Disabled Developments. That program has been fabulous and really addressed most of those issues. It's community policing. The police officer knows the people in the buildings. And by the way, it's not always a resident. It's often a resident's son or daughter who has a substance abuse issue. They start showing up. It may be we're seeing quite a few seniors who are having substance abuse issues, and they're friends. You also have formerly homeless people whose friends are homeless, and they bring people in, and we deal with that. They don't meet the criteria for a rapid response police officer to show up. They think about the calls they're getting in. They're not going to show up because someone's making a lot of noise next door, they're partying or whatever. The community police did. Or if they didn't show up that night, they showed up the next day. They would have a conference, a hearing. It was quite an event, and we still do these. We just don't have the resources that we had in the past because of the number of police officers you have. So I would say that we hire details all the time. We use them in that way. We have Officer DePina, who's a wonderful working with us. He's actually the police officer in the neighborhood. He lives in Roosevelt Heights. It's a program that we've had for a while, but he knows our residents, and we bring him in to deal with that type of thing. But the community policing program addressed those things and the police officer in uniform being in the building made the residents feel a lot safer. The other part, back in about, I think it was 2014, they changed the quarry laws. They have really washed the quarries. We go through, a person comes through, we say, yes, they meet the criteria. The police officer will say to us, the next couple of months, how'd that person get in? And we'll have a clean quarry. It says nothing. That was done on purpose. And so we have to find ways to better vet the candidates because we're not getting that type of information. So that's, again, I'm being as honest with you as I can. And then I want to say the vast majority of people who come in are wonderful people. 269 units, there's 2 problem units at, 2 that I've been working on at Bel Air Highways.
But again, that leads me to, if you know that there's 2 problem units, why aren't they not getting evicted? I mean, that happens in private properties all over the place. If somebody is a troubled tenant, you usually evict those tenants. And sometimes it's guilt by association. It's not you directly, but if you have a family member that comes in and then there's several calls to that same unit on a regular basis, there's a process that needs to be taken to deal with those issues because, it's the old rotten fish theory. You've got 260 plus units and you've got 2 units that are bringing the whole complex down in a sense. I think it's important for us to, deal with those individuals. I mean, through a warning system, through something to say, look, we cannot continue to do this. I mean, there was a woman that told me that she was basically, she had to run through the building because there were some gentlemen that came in, they were looking for a specific unit. And it's one of those troubled units because that's one of the managers said to me. And if that's actually taking place, then those people, they should lose the rights to have housing. And I know that we're going to run into issues about, people with mental health, people with this, people with that, but we need to remember in this country, your rights ends where mine begins. And that needs to be held, and basically someone needs to speak for the law-abiding residents of that complex, that if these others are not going to behave or abide by the laws or the rules and regs that exist, they should not be in there, because I'd rather stick up for the residents that are law-abiding than these individuals who are in trouble that everybody knows about.
I agree with you 100%. The 2 families that or 2 individuals that I'm mentioning are under eviction. Private landlords can go to court. They're treated a little bit differently. The way they created housing court because we were going to district court and we were, I guess, too successful. And I'll go back to Councilman Minichiello's question. 3 out of 4 people who ever apply, we never help because we don't have enough assistance to help them. So you're absolutely right. We need to help the people who are law-abiding. When we go to court, there's many different processes. Remember, the Department of Transitional Assistance puts a person into a shelter. That shelter works, and they're all working under HLC, Housing and Livable Communities, to get into housing. If housing is successful at evicting them, they go back to the DTA and they go back in the circle. The housing court tries and puts up very large barriers for us to get over that private landlords would not have to go through. We do, unfortunately, we do on a regular basis. There was a truck outside my office last week moving a problem tenant out. We will continue to do that. I believe very strongly, if I go to my family developments, I want people to be able to walk through there and feel very safe. And I know I do. The elderly is a little different because they have those enclosed hallways, those lobbies, and obviously they're more frail and susceptible to crime.
Yeah, but we can't let the lawlessness run our communities.
Right.
You know, and the number one issue that we face out there is public safety, but when it's happening within the homes of our seniors and folks that are frail, in some cases veterans that actually fought and defended this country, and we get people from the outside coming in, you know, running amok and causing all kinds of disturbances and stuff. That just cannot be tolerated. And, you know, be it as it may, but we have to kind of put our foot down and send a message that this is not the type of behavior we want to be, you know, especially with a frail population like we had.
Yeah, that message is being set. As I said, I know that, and we are meeting. I'll meet with those residents tomorrow morning at the Campello high-rise. We'll all gather, all our tenant presidents, and we'll speak. This will be on the agenda. We are sending that message. We are being somewhat successful. Remember, the courts were closed down for 2 years because of COVID. You could not go into court regardless. A number of people decided that meant they didn't have to pay their rent, and we're catching up on that now. But it's something we're pushing forward. Every other Tuesday, we have an attorney who we hire in our offices. We just have all-day conferences, and the conferences are either you're going to do what you're supposed to do, or we're going to court. You're going to do what you're supposed to do, or we're going to court.
Yeah, see, I know you probably don't see it that way. I'd rather have someone not pay rent and not harassing seniors versus someone who's harassing seniors and paying rent. So that's how I feel about it.
Well, usually if they're harassing, they're not paying rent.
Yeah.
You know, they're
Well, thank you for the work that you're doing. Please keep up the good work. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. And Councilors, I did file this resolve. I just have a couple quick questions. And again, thank you, Mr. Tebow, for coming this evening and sharing a lot of important information. You stated that the BHA is going from a Section 9 model to a Section 8 model. So assuming Section 9 is where the state's paying you directly for the unit, and then Section 8 is the tenant paying you for the unit. Is that correct, or?
It's just a different subsidy model. So the Section 9 model is a formula-based model where they say, this is how much money we think you should get every year. And then from that formula, they fund it. And it's usually at about 90%. So you're not getting the money they say that you should be getting. On the Section 8 model, that's a private model. The private landlord says, I charge $2,500 for rent. The person's going to pay $500, so the federal government will pay me $2,000. It gives you much more money to invest back in the property. The Hamilton Wade and Douglas House have been on that model since the late 80s when they were built.
So you believe that's a better model for the city of Brockton?
Right, so right under the formula model, when it breaks and becomes an emergency, you seek funding for it. Under the Section 8 model, you have a sinking fund, and you say, I put a roof on this place, it's going to last 30 years, I need to save the money for 30 years. I know the electrical system's going to have to be replaced after 50 years, I'm going to have the money for that. So you put together a budget, a pro forma that anticipates that. On the other side, it's when's the emergency going to happen?
Right. Okay. You spoke about our buildings, or some specific buildings, being accepted for federalization. Can you explain? I didn't really understand federalization. You say in our the buildings that are under federal control seem to be lacking resources from the federal government. Why would we be federalizing additional buildings?
Yeah, let me be more clear on that. So the federal buildings suffer mostly because they don't have the capital money coming in to make the large repairs to the building. But they do fund the operating fund, the day-to-day maintenance of that, at about 40% higher than the state. So when you federalize, you get an immediate bump. And then we're saying once we go to federal, we will then leave that and go to the Section 8 platform. The state will have to pay for that. They did it. We've federalized Roosevelt Heights, that used to be state, and we've federalized the Bel Air high-rise, that used to be state. The state of Massachusetts came up with a couple $1 million for new windows at Bel Air prior to us doing that, and they came up with about $1 million for Roosevelt Heights to make enhancements there that the Fed said, hey, we won't take these buildings unless you do this. So it's a fairly sophisticated financial transaction that requires the state to invest, but once the state makes that investment, they're done. It's now the federal's responsibility to take care of it after that, and then the housing authorities.
Understood. And then lastly, you mentioned it briefly earlier, but one of my favorite places in the city of Brockton, Caffrey Towers. I understand we did a renovation of Building A, where are we on the renovation of Building B, or has that begun yet, or where?
Oh no, yeah, we've done risers. We're doing risers at one time. We did the B building all at once. We're now doing risers. So it's 8 units per riser, 16 units. We do the wet wall on the way up. So we're slowly going through that. By the time we're finished, we'll have to go back to the B building.
Okay.
I mean, it's just...
And what about the elevator in B? I know that was down for a little while, maybe earlier this year.
Yeah, yeah.
How are we doing there?
Fine. So the brand-new elevators, the person hung some clothes up on a sprinkler head. It was flooding their unit. They were right across from the elevator, and they took their squeegee and they squeegeed it all into the elevator. And it created about $120,000 worth of damage. Components had to be replaced. I mean, it was a substantial issue. It wasn't an elevator issue, really. It was a flooding of the elevator from sprinkler head.
But I know we kind of robbed a little from Peter to pay Paul in the operation of that building. We had to take my understanding was a few parts from one elevator to help operate the other, but we're 100% on both elevators now.
That was to get them up as soon as possible.
Right, yes.
Yeah, no, they're back and running, with their, been fine. I haven't got a call from Caffrey Towers in quite a while on their elevators.
Great location. I love visiting. And for all your information, I believe there's a candidate night on Wednesday evening over at Caffrey Towers. So please, those who are able to join, please do so. Councilors, any other questions?
I had.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. I forgot. Councilor Razak.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Tebow. Thank you for your annual report. Sorry I missed your annual meeting this year. It's usually one of my favorite events. But I would like to just follow up with Councilor Rodriguez's comments on Bel Air Tower. So these are things that we've been dealing with for a number of years. This year I know that Mr. Ripley, who is a new tenant in the building, called me about the same issues that Councilor Rodriguez brought up. I know this past year we lost Officer Goucher and the tenant president, John. They both passed away, so I send my deepest condolences to their families. But we had been working with Officer Salamone. We did set up a few meetings where we did kind of like try to figure out some sort of not a crime watch, but to kind of stay on top of the concerns that the tenants had in Bel Air Tower. But I know things have gotten a little... they've gone in different directions. So I would just like to ask whatever that, comes up, or if you can keep me updated as well with what is done in the building. I do get a lot of calls. I haven't bombarded you with them just because I know there are some things that we can take care of and other things that, that are just a bit out of our hands. But I would just, whatever I can do on my end, I know that we've had meetings, we've met with some of the tenants there, and we've tried to find solutions. I know one of the other things that came up was the security company that you guys hired, because there hasn't been a police detail in a while. You have the security that's at the front. I know that there were some questions about if they could be a little more, instead of just sitting at the desk, if they could walk around the building, it would maybe help enforce some of the rules, or keep an eye on who's coming in and out of the building. I think that would help. I don't know where we're at with that. But once again, whatever we can do. I know that the police chief was also involved in some of the meetings, and Officer Salmos kept us updated. But since the passing of those two people this past year, it's been kind of, I don't know who the new tenant president is even in there. Nobody's contacted me besides Mr. Ripley, who was taking a lot of the calls from the tenants. So I would just like, all this, just if you can keep me updated, as well as Councilor Rodriguez.
Well, thank you very much. A couple of things. The new tenant president is Mario, and I've forgotten his last name, but I'll see him tomorrow. Mr. Ripley does not call me. I don't know why. He has my phone number. But please, I believe all councilors have my phone number. If something comes up, let me know. Don't assume that I know. Although I try to get out there, as I said, I'll meet tomorrow with all of our residents, tenant presidents, and the resident advisory board to try to keep a pulse of that. We do have a new security company. I don't think the last security company was bad. The hours are horrible, 7 to 3 in the morning. They have some turnover, and the last company is, anytime we had a complaint, they would respond and address it. I've met personally with the new security company, told them exactly what I expected. We have our nighttime security coordinator out there every night, checking on them, making sure that they follow their site duties. We have a site book, so if at Bel Air they would prefer them to step away from the front door periodically, walk the hallways, go into the stairways, go into the parking lots, we will instruct them to do that. At random times. We don't like to have them do it at the same time all the time because people are watching. And then the final thing, and I have to go back to the community policing. I am a big proponent of community policing. I don't know if you know, my father was a police officer, so I have a special love for that. My father would talk about the people he arrested as friends almost. He'd say, well, so-and-so's not doing too well, we blah, 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 blah. But he knew who they were. He knew their families, and that's so important with policing. Again, I understand the rapid response. You need it. Things happen. They have to come. But the community policing really it made our places a different place. It empowered the good residents. The good residents felt that they didn't have to hide. So anything we can do to get that back would be greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you. And I do call you anytime we have a problem, and you always take care of it very quickly for us. So one of the big concerns that Mr. Ripley had was the doors weren't closing, and that was taken care of very quickly by people at the housing, at Bel Air's housing authority. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that being said, if nobody else, I'll make a motion to send this favorably back to the full City Council.
Second.
Motion is made, properly second, to recommend this resolved favorably. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Matters recommended favorably. Again, thank you, Mr. Tebow, for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Councilors, we'll open it up for councilor recognition. Councilor Farwell.
Just very briefly for the public, Building Commissioner James Plouffe has been hired, I understand, into a state position. I am very pleased. He is someone who worked very closely with us when we created an inspectional services department. He has served the city with distinction. He's always been a gentleman to deal with, and I wish him well in his new position. It may be somewhat of a pay cut, but I think overall, working for the state, knowing that particular unit, knowing the retirement system in which he'll be located, I think it will give him an opportunity to apply all of the technical knowledge that he has gained and the certifications that he's been awarded and do a great job for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I wish him nothing but the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Lally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Earlier this evening, I was in East Bridgewater for the East Bridgewater Board of Selectmen meeting. They took a moment at the beginning of the meeting to acknowledge the completion of a project that they had done to expand some area on Route 18 for development. That was made possible due to an intermunicipal agreement made between the town of East Bridgewater and the city of Brockton for some of Brockton's sewer capacity. So they took a moment at the beginning to acknowledge the completion of the project, and they had reached out and invited me at the time to be there on behalf of the city of Brockton to thank the city council for their support and for their vote, and to thank the mayor for agreeing to the IMA. But they expressed their appreciation, and they asked me to pass that on. So I wanted to take a moment at the end of the meeting to reflect that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else? Seeing none, and with no further business before this committee, I declare this meeting adjourned.
On that note, Easton.